Hi, welcome to this tutorial on a combined function of index and match, which really is a very strong combined function and can easily replace VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions. The best part about this combined function is that it also takes care of the limitations of the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions. In my previous videos, I have covered both VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions in detail. And if you're not familiar with any of the functions, you can click on the link appearing above and go to the respective tutorial. In this tutorial, we would be covering two aspects. First, we would be revisiting our previous worksheet and derive the same summary through index plus match function on both vertically organized data and then on the horizontally organized data. And then we would be addressing the limitation of the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP function and see how can we negate that limitation through the index plus match function. So let's see what index and match functions are. We will first start with the index function. Now the index function in Excel returns a value or the reference to a value from within array or range. The indexing in Excel starts from 1 and the complete index value is the combination of the row index number and the column index number. The syntax of index only takes 3 inputs, that is first the array, the row number and the column number. So if you define the index 1 as 1 1, it would mean that we are referring to the cell at the row number 1 and column number 1. So in this table, if we want to extract the sales in units for JSON, we would first have to select the array and we have to define the index as row number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Since I have selected the data which includes my header row, my first row would be the header row, and hence if I count till JSON, this is the 10th row in the data selected, and my column number would be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. An important point to note here is that the index function will refer to the row number and the column number inside the array which is defined as input. In case if you are defining the array which is starting from say J3, then this cell J3 would be indexed as 1 1. Now you must be wondering why to go this complicated route of counting the row number and column number manually every time for a value to be extracted, and that is where the match function would come in handy, and both these functions combined really make it a very powerful function. The match function searches for a specified item in a range of cells and then returns the relative position of that item in the range. In a nutshell, we would be using match function to retrieve the row number or the column number and input that into our index function. The syntax of match function is again pretty simple and it takes 3 inputs. First is the lookup value, second is the lookup array and the match type. Now if I am trying to look up for a value of say 0003 in the column A, and if I define the match type as 0, which is for the exact match, it will give me the row number of the cell where 0003 is lying. So in our case, since I have selected the column from A1, it returns the value as 4 because the value 0003 is lying in the 4th row. Now let's use the combination of both the functions, index as well as match, and try and retrieve the same value which we retrieved earlier using the VLOOKUP function. Now we'll first start with the index function. We'll select the entire table as our array. I'll freeze the table so that whenever I'm dragging the formula, it does not shift. For the row number, I'll use a match function. My lookup value would be 0003 since I'm trying to retrieve the value for employees code 0003. I'll freeze the column in this case. My lookup array would be column A, which contains my employee IDs. I'll again freeze this. My match type would be exact, and since I've explained earlier that the index is a combination of both row number as well as the column number, we have defined the row number with our first match function, and for column number we'll define another match, and in this case our lookup value would be the email ID. I'll freeze the row number 9. My lookup array would be the header row which contains all the headers. I'll freeze the header row, and again my match type would be 0. Now this completes my entire function. So if you look at it again, in the first index function, I have defined the array as my entire table because all the values are there in this table. And for row number, I'm using a match function wherein I'm looking up for the value 0003, which is the employee ID, in the employee ID column, which is my column A, and defining the exact match to be returned. Similarly, for the column number, I'm again using another match function wherein this time I am looking up for the email ID in the header row, which is A1 to G1, and again looking for an exact match. So we got the same information which we retrieved through VLOOKUP by using an index plus match function. Now all we have to do is simply drag and drop the formula to get all the desired values. So this explains how we can use a combination of index and match function in order to retrieve the same value as VLOOKUP function. In a very similar manner, we can use the same combination to retrieve the value from a table which is organized horizontally. Now I won't spend much time here, so I'll quickly run the function. For the array, I'll select the entire table again. I'll freeze the array. For my row number, the only thing which will differ is my rows becomes my column and my column becomes my row, because the data is in a transposed manner when we are looking at it horizontally. So our row number would be the email ID in this case, and the column number would be the employee ID. So in order to define the row number, I'll again use the match function. I'll look up for the email ID this time. The array would be, and for the column, my lookup value would be my employee ID. This would be my lookup array, and match type would be 0. And I simply have to drag and drop to retrieve the desired information. I can do the format. Now when we started this tutorial, I categorically highlighted that this combination also takes care of the limitations of the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions. The biggest limitation is in case if we have our unique value in a column or a row which is not on the left or the top of the table which is selected, then VLOOKUP function or HLOOKUP function will not work. The beauty of this combined function is that it does not have that limitation of where my data lies or where my lookup value lies, whether it's on the extreme right of the table or in the middle of the table or on the extreme left. So we'll quickly use this function. Again, index, my array would be the entire table. I'll freeze the array. My row number again would be defined using a match function. Now I'll be looking up for this value, which is 0003. I'll freeze the column here. My lookup array would be the G column, which contains my employee IDs. I'll freeze that, looking for an exact match. And for column, again defining it through match function. My lookup value again would be the email ID. I'll freeze the row this time, select the header row, freeze it, and again my match type would be the exact one. Here we go. Now I have to simply drag and drop my formula to get the desired values, irrespective of the fact whether my data is lying towards the extreme left or the middle or the extreme right. Perform a quick formatting and we are done. So this is how you can use a combination of index and match function to look up for the desired values. Hope you liked this video. Do share your comments and questions in the comment section below. Also do follow this channel to access more video tutorials on various Excel functions. Thank you.